The sun burned low over the dry plains of Arizona Territory, painting the horizon in hues of copper and gold. The train's whistle shrieked through the still air as two young women stepped down onto the dusty platform of Silver Creek. They were strangers in a strange land, their dresses simple, their faces glowing with the hope that had carried them across 1,000 miles of uncertainty. Mary Ellen and Hope Whitfield, sisters from Missouri, had answered a mail-order bride advertisement. The letter had promised a home, security, and a husband who would cherish them both. Not in a scandalous way, of course, but as two brides for two ranchers who shared the land and wanted to build families side by side. Their mother had cried the day they left, pressing a locket into Hope's hand and whispering, "Don't forget who you are, no matter how far you go." The town of Silver Creek was small, more saloon than church, more dust than road. Men paused in their work to watch the newcomers, their stares lingering too long. The sisters clutched each other's hands, feeling the danger in the silence. From the far end of the street, a man approached, tall, well-dressed, and wearing a slick grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. He tipped his hat. "Miss Mary Ellen, Miss Hope Whitfield," he said smoothly. "Name's Mr. Clayton. I reckon I'm the one who wrote you." "Welcome to Silver Creek, ladies." Hope smiled with relief. "Mr. Clayton." "We were so worried you wouldn't be here." "Oh, I'm a man of my word," he said, taking their luggage with surprising eagerness. "Come along now. Your new life awaits." The way he said it, "your new life," carried a tone that Hope didn't quite like. But she pushed it aside. She wanted to believe. After all, this was supposed to be their salvation, a chance to start fresh, after their father's debts, and the long winters that had left them hungry and forgotten. The sisters followed Clayton to a rickety wagon waiting near the general store. The horses looked half-starved, their ribs showing through their coats. As the wagon jolted forward, Hope looked around, her heart sinking as they passed the edge of town and rolled into the endless desert. "How far's the ranch?" she asked. "Not far," Clayton replied with a grin that flashed gold teeth. "Just a few miles more." Mary Ellen glanced at her sister, her blue eyes troubled. "You said there were two ranchers, brothers?" Clayton laughed softly. "Oh, you'll meet them soon enough. Fine men, hard workers." But as the miles dragged on, something in his tone turned sharp, and when they finally stopped, near a small canyon camp with a few tents and no house in sight, Hope knew something was wrong. "Where's the ranch?" she asked, clutching her bag tighter. Clayton's grin disappeared. "This is it. For now." Before either sister could speak, two rough-looking men stepped from the shadows, armed, dirty, and grinning. One of them spat on the ground. Clayton turned to the sisters. "You see, ladies, I might have bent the truth a bit. There ain't no ranch. There ain't no wedding. Least not the kind you were expecting. You're worth money. And some folks down south are paying good for women like you." Mary Ellen gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "You tricked us." Clayton's eyes turned cold. "You wanted a new life. I'm giving you one." Hope felt her stomach twist. She wanted to scream, but her voice failed her. She could only stare at the man who had promised safety and brought them to ruin. Then, from behind them, a sharp voice broke the tension. "Let him go, Clayton." The men froze. A figure stood on the ridge above, a cowboy on horseback, his silhouette outlined by the dying sun. His hat cast a shadow over his face, but his voice was steady and calm, carrying the authority of someone who'd seen enough evil for one lifetime. Clayton's lip curled. "Stay out of this, Cole. Ain't your concern." The cowboy dismounted slowly, his boots crunching against the gravel. "Anything happening to a lady in my county is my concern." Hope's heart pounded as she looked up at him. He wasn't just another drifter. There was something about the way he stood, proud, but weary, like he'd fought too many battles and carried every scar quietly. "Sheriff Cole Anders," he said, flashing his badge just long enough for everyone to see it. "You're under arrest for fraud and trafficking, Clayton. You and your boys." Clayton sneered. "You think you can take all three of us alone?" Cole smiled faintly. "Reckon I don't need to." In a single motion, he drew his revolver and fired, not to kill, but to disarm. The shot cracked through the canyon, hitting the gun clean out of one outlaw's hand. Before the others could react, Cole had them face down in the dirt. Hope watched in stunned silence. The man moved like the wind, white fast, precise, fearless. When the dust settled, Clayton was on his knees, muttering curses under his breath. Cole walked over to the sisters. "You ladies all right?" Mary Ellen nodded shakily. We thought we were going to die." "You're safe now," Cole said gently, helping them onto his horse. "Silver Creek's no place for decent women right now. I'll take you to my ranch till we figure this out." Hope hesitated. "We don't even know you." He met her eyes, and for a moment she saw something in them. Sorrow, maybe, or loneliness. "You don't have to. Just know you'll be safe. That's a promise." The ride back was quiet, save for the soft rhythm of hooves against the dirt. The moon had risen by the time they reached Cole's ranch, a modest cabin surrounded by wide fields and a river glinting in the starlight. Mary Ellen fell asleep almost immediately, exhaustion overtaking her. But Hope couldn't rest. She stood on the porch looking out at the vast sky. Cole joined her after a while, leaning against the railing. "You did a brave thing," he said. "I didn't do anything," Hope murmured. "You saved us." He shook his head. "You stood your ground. That counts." There was silence for a moment. Then Hope asked softly, "Why'd you help us? You could have just ridden by." Cole looked out into the night. "Because once, I didn't. A woman was tricked same way. I thought it wasn't my business. She didn't make it." His jaw tightened. "Never again." Hope's eyes softened. "You carry that with you?" "Every day." A long pause hung between them, not awkward, but heavy with unspoken understanding. The desert wind whispered through the grass, and the stars burned brighter. Finally, Cole said, "Tomorrow we'll head into town. I'll file the report, and you can decide what you want to do next. Maybe find honest work here, maybe go back east. But if that's what you choose, make sure it's your choice this time." Hope nodded slowly. "Thank you, Sheriff." He tipped his hat. "Cole, just Cole." As he walked back inside, Hope stared after him. The way he spoke, the quiet strength in his voice, it stirred something in her heart she hadn't expected. That night, as she lay awake beside her sleeping sister, Hope whispered to herself, "You'll marry Hope, not him." She didn't yet know why those words echoed in her mind, but soon they would change everything. The first light of dawn spilled across the open plains, painting the ranch in a quiet gold. Hope woke to the sound of roosters crowing and the smell of coffee drifting from the small kitchen. For the first time in weeks, she felt something she'd almost forgotten: safety. Mary Ellen was still sleeping, her hand clutching the silver locket their mother had given her. Hope smiled softly and stepped outside. Sheriff Cole Anders was already in the yard, working the corral, his shirt sleeves rolled up, his movements steady and sure. She watched him for a moment, the way the early sun caught the edges of his hat, the calm strength in everything he did. There was something about him, something rooted deep in the land itself. Cole looked up and gave a small nod. "Mornin'. You sleep all right?" Hope tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "I did, better than I expected." "Good," he said, tying off a rope. "There's biscuits on the stove if you're hungry." Hope hesitated. "You didn't have to take us in. You barely know us." Cole leaned against the fence. "Maybe not, but I know what it's like to have nowhere else to go. Sometimes that's all the reason a man needs." Hope looked down, the memory of the train ride flashing through her mind. The hope, the fear, the betrayal. "We trusted the wrong man," she said quietly. "We wanted a home so badly we didn't see the lie." Cole's voice softened. "Ain't your fault. People like Clayton prey on good hearts. But you'll rise from it. You're stronger than you think." She smiled faintly. "You sound like you've done some rising yourself." He didn't answer for a while. Then he said, "I used to be a drifter. Rode with some bad men. Made choices I ain't proud of. Took me years to earn this badge, and even longer to forgive myself." Hope saw the weight behind his words, the pain that hid behind his quiet strength. Before she could reply, a horse galloped up the road, dust flying in its wake. It was Deputy Harris, a young man with urgency written across his face. "Sheriff," he called out, reining in hard. "Clayton's men, and they escaped. 3 of them. They're heading this way." Cole's eyes hardened instantly. "How long ago?" "Maybe an hour." Cole turned to Hope. "Get your sister inside. Lock the door and don't open it for anyone but me." Hope's heart thudded. "Cole, you can't face them alone." He gave a small, steady smile. "I've faced worse. Go on now." She ran inside, shaking Mary Ellen awake. "They're coming," she whispered. "Clayton's men!" Mary Ellen's eyes widened. "Oh God, Hope." "It'll be all right," Hope said, though her voice trembled. "Cole won't let anything happen to us." Outside, the sheriff saddled his horse. checking his rifle with practiced precision. The calm before the storm. When the outlaws arrived, the land erupted into chaos. Gunfire cracked through the air, echoing off the canyon walls. Hope peeked from the window, heart pounding as she saw Cole crouched behind a wagon, returning fire with deadly accuracy. Clayton rode at the front, wild-eyed and furious. "You think you can steal my property, Anders?" he shouted. "Those girls belong to me." Cole stood tall, his voice carrying across the wind. "They don't belong to you or anyone. You tricked them, and now you'll pay for it." Clayton spat. "You talk like a preacher, but out here, law's just a word." "Then let's give it meaning," Cole replied, raising his rifle. The next few seconds were a blur. The sound of bullets, the flash of metal, the desperate cries of men who'd lived too long without conscience. Hope held her breath as she saw one of the outlaws fall, then another. But Clayton was cunning. He swung around, firing from behind a water trough, his bullet grazing Cole's arm. The sheriff staggered but didn't fall. He gritted his teeth and kept moving, circling the enemy with the patience of a wolf. Finally, when Clayton's gun clicked empty, Cole stepped forward, eyes burning. "It's over." Clayton snarled. "You don't scare me, lawman. I'll find another town, another girl." Cole fired once. The bullet hit the dirt inches from Clayton's boots. "You'll find a cell instead." The outlaw froze, his courage evaporating like mist. Harris rode in with reinforcements moments later, rounding up the wounded men. When it was done, the land fell quiet again, the wind whispering through the grass, the sun high above. Hope burst out of the cabin, running toward Cole. "You're hurt," she cried, seeing the blood on his sleeve. "It's nothing," he said with a half-smile. "Just a scratch." But Hope wasn't fooled. She tore a strip from her apron and wrapped it around his arm. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from something deeper, the rush of realizing how much she cared for him. "Why do you keep risking your life for us?" she whispered. Cole looked at her, his eyes soft. "Because when I look at you, I see what's right in a world gone wrong. You remind me that good things are still worth fighting for." Hope felt her breath catch. "And what happens now?" He chuckled faintly. "Now? I reckon I'll have to take you both to town. File the report, see justice done. After that..." He hesitated. "That's up to you." Mary Ellen stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "We can't go back east. There's nothing left there." Cole nodded slowly. "Then maybe you stay here. There's a schoolhouse needs a teacher, and a church looking for a choir. Silver Creek could use women like you." Hope smiled. "And what about you, Sheriff? What do you need?" He looked away, then back at her with a half-smile that could melt the desert frost. "Maybe I need a reason to stop riding alone." For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them was heavy with something unsaid, something that didn't need words. Days later, after the dust of justice had settled and Clayton's gang was gone for good, the town of Silver Creek gathered for a small ceremony at the chapel. The sisters had decided to stay, and life began to return to the little town. Cole stood outside the church, hat in hand, watching as Hope helped decorate the steps with wildflowers. She turned, smiling shyly. "You clean up well, Sheriff." He grinned. "You too, Miss Hope." But before he could say more, Pastor Briggs stepped out and chuckled. "You two gonna stand there staring all day? Or you fixin' to make something of it?" Hope blushed. "Pastor, we were just..." Cole interrupted gently, his voice steady. "Actually, Pastor, I was hoping to have a word with you about that." Hope blinked in surprise. "Cole?" He stepped closer, his gaze never leaving hers. "Hope Whitfield, I know life's thrown you into enough storms. You deserve peace, a home, and someone who'll never let you be tricked again. I can't promise the world, but I can promise you my heart, my word, and my hand." The crowd murmured softly. Mary Ellen wiped away tears. Hope stood frozen for a heartbeat, then smiled through her own tears. "You'll marry Hope, not him," she whispered, repeating the words that had echoed in her heart since that night. Cole took her hand gently. "That's the only promise I ever want to keep." And beneath the open sky of the frontier, with the wind carrying the scent of spring and freedom, the cowboy and the woman he saved began a new story. One not written by deceit or fear, but by faith, courage, and love. As the church bells rang and the town cheered, Hope looked out at the horizon. The same one she'd once feared would swallow her whole. Now it felt endless and full of promise. And if you were standing there watching it all unfold, you'd feel it too. The truth that no matter how far you fall, there's always a way back toward hope. Because sometimes, All it takes is one brave soul to say, "You'll marry Hope, not him."